Platform and DevOps knowledge is super useful for every engineer. Every product engineer should know about platform, at least the basic. Not every platform engineer should know React, right? Depending on what they work in, but I would put the product engineers and put them for a month helping the platform teams in a project. Like everyone should do a bit of platform work to understand, to see how they work, right? They can work in Kanban and not your usual Scrum to see how their day to day. If you need to provide support to your own team, right? You are the pipeline. You will see how many requests are coming through, and the other way around. For 2 sprints, like for a month, we had one of the platform developers in our team because he wanted to experience the life of a developer to understand better the problem and the usage of his own systems. And it was really, really mind-opening for him too, to understand why we complain, what he thought was so easy to understand that it's our problem. Once he sat with us and tried and developed and released some backend code to production, he understood it's not that easy. And so this connection of switching places, and it has some cost, but I feel it's worth it.
Hi everyone, this is Kovid back with another episode of groCTO by Typo. And today with us, we have a very special guest who is coming to the show for the second time, but first time for this year. That's Anton. Welcome to the show, Anton.
Thank you, Kovid. Great to be back.
So let me introduce Anton. Anton, guys, is Director of Engineering at Taranis, a company from Tel Aviv. And he is also the author of Leading Developers, which is a trending newsletter, at least on my list. And he is having almost 18,000 subscribers there, writing some great articles we are really fond of at groCTO. So, congratulations to that, Anton, and
Thank
welcome to
you.
the show again.
Thank you so much.
All right. So today's topic of discussion is one of the topics from Anton's newsletter, which is leading dev teams versus platform teams. This was a very interesting topic. I read the whole newsletter, Anton, and I really found it very interesting, and that's the reason I pulled you off here. And before we like jump into this, I'm really curious to ask you a few questions about it. But before that, I just want to know how was your last year? How did 2024 go? What are your plans for 2025? So that we get to know a little more about you.
So 24 was very busy. I had my I had my first kid at the beginning of the year, so a year ago, and got promoted a month after that. So it was a year full of
Super hectic.
hectic career, family, and I think a small one would be in my first international conference back in September, which was a great experience for me. Like talking in English with an audience. So I would say a lot of family, a lot of career, and in the next year, it's more about family. I'm right now taking a 7-8 months break, and I'm planning to work on my own thing in the early child education, mainly helping parents, children like my own kids' age, just a bit of technology and also learn about it. I feel parents don't really know what they're doing, so that's my goal for
Yes.
next year, to be a better father and use technology for that.
No, that's really amazing. I know this is, I think there are a few experiences in a human's life, and this is one of those which changes you completely, and in a very good way actually. When you're young, you usually do not love to take responsibilities. Nobody loves to do that. But when such kind of responsibilities come in, I think you grow as a person. There is something else that you explore in your life. At least what I've seen in my friend circle, and of course, I can relate to what you're saying also. So, congratulations and all the best. We really feel that you would do great here as well.
Thank you. Definitely will try.
Yeah. All right, Anton. Coming to the main section, talking about platform teams and dev teams. This topic is very unique in a way that nobody usually gets to talk about it in detail, in depth, the way you have done it. Of course, a lot of generic articles are there. I've read a lot. This session could be a really good guide for someone who is in a position where they are moving into these roles from leading dev teams to platform teams. They could really have some learnings from what you have experienced in the past. So, first question to you actually, why did this topic come to you? What happened in your personal experience that made you realize that, okay, this could be something that an engineering manager or a tech lead who is switching between these kind of responsibilities would be interested in knowing?
Going back, I first started in a classic dev team, right? I wrote code like everyone else for a few years, and then I switched to the platform side, DevOps side, more infrastructure, and led a team there for a couple of years. And I decided to switch back. So it was two switches I did. And in my last role as an engineering manager of a classic product facing, user facing team, I felt that most of the other engineering managers in the organization, they don't really know how to work with the platform team. We have a DevOps platform team that provide us, all the tools that help us. And I felt they don't really understand uh, how to approach them, how to help them, how to connect them to the business. So they just really liked working with my team, and I always got what I wanted, and I pushed the agenda further, and it really, really helped my developers too, right? Because they got close to the platform developers and they understood it better. That made them better developers, and I felt like this connection can help other engineer managers that never experienced how difficult it is to be in a platform or DevOps team. I'm using the terms interchangeably, but
Yeah.
let's call them platform for now. So I felt that I can show the other side, and I hope it will help other engineer managers to see the difficulties and stop being annoying because
Yeah.
we are the clients. It's very very hard to satisfy developers for platform teams. It's almost impossible. You're always too slow. You always too bugs. You're always not prioritizing me enough. So I wanted to show a bit on the other side. So that was the focus of the article, like showing the inside of a DevOps team with some tips, product teams on how to help those DevOps platform teams. That was the idea.
Interesting, interesting. So this was some real pain coming out there, and like you telling people, okay, this is what the picture is, so that they know what's going on, right? I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people connected to that, and even I like the article a lot. Um, I was reading one section from the article which mentions about like this is something which is really, really hard to manage, right? Because the expectations are very hard, and you just now mentioned about uh, it's very hard to satisfy the developers, and then the requirements are changing too fast. So these were the first two things I remember from your article, which were you touched base upon. So can you just give me some examples and the audience about how you see things are changing really fast, or how it is becoming very difficult for you to manage these demanding clients actually?
First of all, I think when your clients are technical and they are inside the company, they feel the privilege to tell you how to do things and prioritize your work, right? Because they say, "Oh, why does it take you months? I know it, I can do it for a week," right? They feel they can do the platform work and they kind of push the platform teams. I had an example where when I was leading the platform team, we were responsible for. I don't want to get too technical, but we had database services like Postgres, MongoDB, Redis, right? Storage databases. So we were in a private cloud, and we were responsible for uh, providing those database as a service. What do you have in AWS and GCP? You just can request one. So we needed to do the same in our own private cloud, which is quite complex. And we provided PostgreSQL and MongoDB and Redis. And every day another developer says like, why don't you do Cassandra? And why don't you do CoachDB? Like they felt like they know what need to be done, and they never thought, in my opinion, Postgres is perfect for 99.9% of the startups and products. But the developers felt like they need to push me to provide them new database just because they wanted to use new technologies, right? And now I heard like, uh, for example, we have Jenkins, right? So in my company, I heard developers complain, why Jenkins so slow? We need to replace it for something faster, right? And this is something as a product team, you never hear your client tell you, why do you use React? You need to use Vue, right? It's faster. It's they don't care, right? They care about the end
Yeah.
result. And here the comments like this, like, does somebody really know how hard it is to replace Jenkins with another tool? What are the costs? What are the benefits? Why do you use it? So they feel very comfortable like suggesting and giving their opinion, even if nobody really asks them, I would say. That's one thing. And the other one about the priorities is, it's actually, I would say, sense of urgency, that there are a lot more fires in the platform team that we've seen. For example, if you have, we had the case of a GPU problem, right? The world has not enough GPUs, so we used the cheaper version of GPUs where they don't promise you enough. And then we had a bottleneck and we needed the GPUs, but we couldn't get them. And now we needed to change all the infrastructure to request the higher GPUs and kind of balance them to save prices. And this is a project that took 1 month, and it's completely stopped what they're working on, which was also important. And you have so many incoming things like that. You have an alert somewhere, right? Something is crashing. Very often it's the developer's problem. But if you see a pod crashing, you say, okay, it's the DevOps. They don't have enough memory, or they don't have enough nodes, or something like that. And then you kind of need to debug, and then you understand it's the developer's problem. You tell them, and then they debug and come back to you because they don't do their job well. So this all back and forth make it very, very, very hard to concentrate. I remember
Of
like
course.
sitting and you have this tap on the shoulder. Please help me a bit. Please just explain me why this is not working. Clients usually in a product team, you have customer support, you have customer success, you have so many layers that isolate the developers from distractions, right? And you can see it straight. Here, your clients are sitting by your side and they just go over and sit by you, expecting you to help them. I think product developers would have been crazy if your client was come up to you and say, "Oh, this I see an error. Help fix it now." So, yeah, I agree. Those are the two things that make it very hard. Clients being opinionated and always distracted.
Right. I think from the 2 points that you mentioned, there is always unwanted suggestions, recommendations, and then there is this explanation. When do not want to be directly interacting with them, there should be a first level of curation on whether the problem belongs to the platform team or to the developer. There should be some level of clarity there, and then probably there should be deep diving into what's going on, who's responsible. So what I felt is, let's say, just hypothetically, 5 years down the line, you are an engineering leader who is managing the complete tech for an org. You have platform team, you have your development team, right? What advice or what kind of culture you would like to set in, because it seems like a problem of a culture or perception where people like blame the platform teams or do not empathize with the platform teams that much. So as an engineering leader down the line who is leading two different teams, what kind of culture you would like to set in, or what kind of practices you would want to set in, so that platform teams who are equally critical and responsible and accountable for things as development teams are operate neck to neck? Or I'm short of words here, but I hope you get the sense of what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say.
yeah, I,
Yeah.
I think I got it, and it's small thing that we've actually tried, but I think if I would have been the decision maker, it would be on a bigger scale, actually to switch places for at least a while. So I believe that platform and DevOps knowledge is super useful for every engineer, right? Not always the other way around. So I truly believe that every product engineer should know about platform, at least the basics. Not every platform engineer should know React, right? Depends on what they work in, but I would put the product engineers and put them for a month helping the platform teams in a project. Like everyone should do a bit of platform work to understand, to see how they work, right? They can work in Kanban and not your usual Scrum, to see how their day to day. If you see from the other side, like if you need to provide support to your own team, right? You are the pipeline. You will see how many requests are coming through, and the other way around. I feel that we had for 2 sprints, like for a month, we had one of the platform developers in our team because he wanted to experience the life of a developer to understand better the problem and the usage of his own systems. And it was really, really mind opening for him too, to understand why we complain, what he thought was so easy to understand that it's our problem. Once he sat with us and tried and developed and released some backend code to production, he understood it's not that easy. And so this connection of switching places, and it has some cost, but I feel it's worth it. And the second one I would say is connect. Like the roadmap shouldn't be different, right? They should be much more connected. So when you're building the platform roadmap, you should have, of course, the engineer managers, but not only when you build it. Like they should be there every release kickoff, every time they should be part of the platform roadmap. This is the easy part. The harder part is to explain to the platform people the your product, like how is your 3 4 months going to look, what are you working on, what do you expect, and not just the managers, which is what usually happens, right? You have managers sitting with manager, discuss and stuff like that. The people underneath need to understand that, sit there. For example, a platform engineer should hear customer success stories that he indirectly helped, because a big part of the problem that when you work in the platform team, you don't really affect the business bottom line, right? You help developers create solutions, but if you can have those stories of how you helped someone deliver something faster and what was the impact on the company, it creates like a shared responsibility, because next time you will want to help them faster. You will want to understand the problem better because you feel the impact. Saying I released a service to production in 5 minutes instead of 3 hours, that's nice. But saying I released a feature a week earlier and a bigger deal was agreed by the customer because of the DevOps team, right? Doing this connection. It's not always easy, but in a couple of cases, we're able to do that connection of platform work directly to business outcomes. I feel that would be something I would try much more. Um, so yeah, if I had to choose one, it's just switching the places a bit. We had a concept called DevOps champions, but it can be platform champions, where you pick one developer from each product team, and they have a weekly meeting with the platform team and like hear about the latest news, ask questions, and for example, they are the point of contact before you can contact the platform team. You have someone in your team who is interested in platform, and he gets more. He get like I would say Slack direct Slack access to the DevOps team. They know like this person. If he asks, we will drop everything and help them, and they build trust, and then the whole team talks to one person instead of to the DevOps team, and this helps a bit. So I hope it was not too confusing. So if I sum it up, I say switch places and have dedicated platform representative inside the product teams, and also connect
And
the platform team to the business side. Yeah.
that really makes sense. Uh, this point which you mentioned about bringing DevOps champions, right? Like who
Yeah.
are going to be the point of contact for the product teams to share knowledge, understand things. Going back to your newsletter, you mentioned about bringing more visibility and recognition also. So is
Yes.
this DevOps champion some way of recognition also that you want to bring in into the teams to have a better culture there? I mean, basically, these teams lack that level of recognition just because they're not, again, directly impacting the business, so they don't really get to see or feel what's exactly they have done. Is this an outcome or consequence of that?
Yeah, I no, I think it's a bit different because the champions are product engineers like that are originally from inside the team. So if I have five
Okay.
developers, one of them will be like will wear the platform hat, but he will be a
Okay.
pure product engineer and he will get to learn from them and work with them, the ones that are interested. For the recognition, I'm talking about recognition of the pure platform engineers, which are usually
Oh,
in
okay.
the dark and separate there. And there it's about what we discussed a bit earlier, also sharing their stories, but also public acknowledgement. That's something that I really I have the privilege of having a LinkedIn, and I constantly write there. So I did a couple of shout out for our platform engineers after nice projects, and they really, really appreciate it because people usually how it is. If it works, they don't hear about platform only when it breaks. So they don't get like kudos for nice projects and stuff like that. So I really try both on LinkedIn, but also in internal company Slack channels. Saying nice words, appreciating the work, stuff like that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Totally. I think one thing I would be interested in knowing, like any of the projects that you took up as a platform team lead and completed that project, what was the mindset, what was the need, and then how you accomplished it. Just deep diving into that process of being a platform team lead, leading a project to make the lives of your developers better, and maybe making them more productive, maybe delivering faster.
So let me think. It's been a while, right?
Yeah.
It's 4 or 5 years ago since I was there, but I think if I go back, right, my team's role was to deliver database as a service for our customers,
Okay.
right? Our customers, the
Okay.
developers, they want whatever PostgreSQL, MongoDB, and it's hard to me to explain to people how it is without a public cloud. I was in a government agency, so there was no GCP, AWS, Azure. It was like everything you need to create everything. It was an air-gapped environment because of uh,
Restrictions and
information.
everything,
Yeah,
regulations.
yeah, regulation information you couldn't use, stuff like that. So we need to do everything from scratch. And one thing that uh, we were a small team, so all the communication was we didn't have like a portal. All right, I know it's very hard to imagine a world without the public cloud, but it was like emails and messages. Please create me a database and stuff like that. And one very small annoying thing was the extensions. In Postgres, you have many default extensions. Like you have PostGIS, like for geographic extensions. You have like for using it as a vector database. You have many extensions, and we wanted to help them use those extensions, right? Because every time they needed a new extension, they need to send us an email. We needed to check it. We needed to roll it out and stuff like that. So I know I think it's not what ideally what you meant
Yeah.
because it was quite a small project, but I saw that pain and we kind of went and figured out the top 20, 30 extensions that did some templates and did some UI work, which is quite rare for platform teams, right? Because you hate UI usually if you're a platform. At most, you can do some backend, but you prefer to do like, Bash script and stuff. So we did some basic interface with React, HTML, CSS. So to create this very ugly portal, which I think people appreciate it. It makes the work easier. And I think what
Right.
the good platform teams are not afraid of writing a bit of code and using like graphical interface to like a small portal or like if you want to
Yeah.
request to see stuff like that instead of waiting for product teams to help them create a nice screen and stuff like that. Now with cursor and and all the LLM, it can take you 30 minutes to do
Right.
everything you need. Like you have an APIs, you can put them where they can use buttons to do like that. You need to request something. So I think like that barrier, if I go back to the story, to break that barrier, not say, okay, I can only do backend stuff. That's how it works. I will, and just think about the next step and go where it's uncomfortable. I was lucky because I had the background as a product developer, so easy for me. But all of my team members, there was like, no, no way we're going to write React. No, it's not our job and stuff like that. So I had to force them a bit, force them, and they actually enjoyed it because it's rarely in the platform that you can actually see something immediately and not.
This was an interesting experience. And how this experience would have changed in case of such kind of requirement when it comes to the dev teams, like, because we are just comparing, like, why leading dev teams is different from leading platform teams. So in this situation, of course, there was a barrier, there was a problem which the platform teams had to solve, but it came with a solution that platform teams are usually not inclined towards, like building the UI, right? If a similar kind of a situation had to come in for the dev teams, how do you think it would have been easier or difficult for you to manage as a manager?
I would say is as a dev team, you have a product manager, you have UX designer, then you get a ready Figma of how it should look like, and you just implement it in a couple of days, right? It's so much easier because someone is doing the research of talking to the customer. Some platform teams have a product manager, right? I would not say, but they for sure don't have a UX designer working with them
Yeah.
because the system is internals and everybody say, oh, just make it good enough. These are our people anyway. You don't need to make it beautiful. So this is usually how it works in a product team. For me as a manager, it's so much less work for me. The
Yeah.
product manager doing most of the work, and I just like manage the people a bit, coach them. But as a platform team, I did it like 50% of my job. I did product management. For some of the time, I did have a dedicated product manager, but for some of it, I didn't, and I needed to kind of fill the holes myself. Yeah, because in platform team, it's the first team where you cut the product manager. You say, "Oh, it's internal, no need. The engineering manager can manage
Exactly my
themselves."
point. Yeah. So even I felt so like for platform teams, do you think is it even important to have a product manager, because the tech lead or probably the engineering manager who's involved with the team would be a good start to make sure like things are falling in the right places and understanding the problem. See, ultimately for a product manager it is very important to be more empathetic towards the client's problems and be able to relate to it. The more they relate, the more fit is there, the better solutioning they can design, right? Similarly, for an engineering manager who is leading the platform team, it would be more of a product role and it makes more sense also, as per my understanding. What do you have to say about that?
I've had experience with product managers with platform team who didn't come from an engineering background, and it was always a failure in my experience. I would
Yeah.
say it's better to have no product manager to let the engineering manager do their job, and
Hmm.
ideally in that team, after I think it was after a year and a half, one of the engineers, like, she mentioned she wants to become a product manager. That is her career path, and then it's a perfect fit, right? If you have
Yeah,
an engineer who wants to become a product manager from inside the company, then it can work great. But I feel that in platform case, the product manager must have engineer background. Otherwise, you can try to learn to be technical, but it would just be it would be a different language. It's not like with
exactly.
product teams.
Yeah,
It's yeah, I agree. I feel it's yeah, it just doesn't work in my experience
right.
at least.
Makes sense. By leading a platform team where you find this kind of a fit where some engineer who is interested in becoming a product manager comes in and plays a role, I think I sense that there is definitely a need of a person who understand the pain, whether that person is an engineer or the engineering manager who is working as a product manager, but you definitely need that kind of a support in the system to make sure the requirements are flowing in correctly, right?
Yep, I agree.
And most of the time what I have seen or felt is that engineers usually shy away, or the engineering team shy away from being involved that aggressively towards client requirements. So when it comes to platform teams, how do you bring that extra level of empathy towards customer problems? Of course they are developers, they relate to the problem, but still I feel that in a world where we live, dealing with real world problems, being a developer, you still get to see some side of it because you're a human, you're living in that world. But when it comes to platform team, it's all technical. You have seen things, but still it's more like you are just solving a technical problem. So the empathy towards deep diving into the problem and bringing up a solution, does it become harder or easier when you are raising a product manager in an engineering team for platform teams?
I think it's quite hard, and I think this is the role of the engineering manager, of the platform engineering manager. Like, I feel the product manager still have difficulty bridging that gap. I would say the platform engineers, either by experience or by character, they care more about the technical side. You know, this term of product engineer, which is like pure product engineer, not like software engineer, like the people who
Yeah,
decide what to build. Platform engineers, from my experience, care about the technical side, like much, much more, right? They want to build excellent solutions. They are excited by crazy bugs, and they are excited by saving costs, stuff that most
yeah,
people are less excited by that. And yeah, it's purely the job of the engineering manager. Like, as a platform manager, you need to show the pains of the developers to. That's much more than in a product team where the PM fill that gap. I feel that even if a PM is ex engineer, in my experience, somehow, like, if the engineering manager won't do it, the developers will resist much more the PM, right? I think that what comes to mind. You have much more resistance in the platform team because they want to stay in the code. They don't want to join
yeah.
customer meetings. They don't want those things. They just want to code. So you need to, like, peel that shell and try to bring developers to share their stories, send them for a month for a development team, as we discussed, which they will hate probably. So you need to push a bit. And the PM, it's not, they are not his or her direct report, so they have limited power, and you can actually, I would not say force, but kind of help them hardly along that path of understanding the user plans. Yeah.
Great, and then I think uh, thanks for this interesting talk and helping us deep dive into the platform teams and the dev teams and how they differ in their core DNA. I think there were some great insights about how things change when you are leading a platform team. That from the expectations, from the kind of mindset that the developers come with, the unwanted suggestions, and like how you bring more connectedness to the business and recognizing teams. So I think this was a very interesting talk. Before we move from the session, is there any advice, a parting advice that you would like to give to the audience?
My main advice would be to the product leaders, product engineering manager, to try much harder to understand the pains of the platform teams in your organization and how can you help them. Schedule one-on-one with the platform engineering manager. Be more involved because they will appreciate their help and they might not even know they need your help. And in my experience, you will benefit from that for sure.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think this was not only help reducing the friction, but will also help uh, in bringing a more better and a collaborative effort to build better product also, like better platform also, for
For
sure.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Great, Anton. Thank you. Thank you so much once again. It was great having you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Kovid. It was great being here.